Hi, I'm Daniel Fletcher. I'm a fashion designer and I'm based here in London. I'm also the creative director of Royal Ascot and I'm here today with FRASERS and we are putting together some looks for the races this summer. I think for me, one of the things I love most about my job is the different projects that I've been able to be involved in. From doing my own label to now being part of Royal Ascot as well. All of these different projects that I've worked on, it's kind of kept my life very interesting actually, and sometimes very unexpected as well. You know, I've done some kind of fashion TV work in recent years, and they are routes that I'd never expected to go down. When I'm deciding kind of what projects to do and what I want to work on, it's very instinctive really, like thinking about, you know, what makes sense for me. And so when the opportunity came along to work with Royal Ascot and be their first creative director, it really spoke to me because there's so much heritage there. You know, it's a British institution and the style of it really kind of aligned with the inspirations that I often find in my design work. So being able to kind of be part of something that has so much heritage and history kind of feels really special. And with every project that I go into, it's always about that, you know, if it feels right. I think growing up, I was always interested in fashion. I was always that kid matching my socks with my t-shirts, but I didn't really know what it was to become a fashion designer. And it was not until I was kind of like 18 and I went to study an art foundation and I moved to London that this kind of fashion world was opened up to me. And you know, the first thing I did in the industry was I kind of like went on the London Fashion Week website and I found the phone numbers for some PR agencies and I phoned one up and I was like, hey, can I do an internship? And they were like, yeah, sure. The girl on the phone was from the north as well. And I was like, oh, I'm from near Manchester. And then they invited me in and I did my first internship that way. And, you know, going to London Fashion Week at age 20 and, you know, being with the backstage with the steamer was a real eye-opener for me, and I fell in love with it. And then the next step after that was going to St. Martin's to study menswear design, and you know, the rest is history. I feel really lucky to have been able to dress so many amazing celebrities, and it's a novelty that never wears off actually. You know, I recently did something with Kim Cattrall and I went to her house at 9 o'clock on a Saturday morning with like a rail of clothes in the back of a taxi. It was such a funny feeling. It's not lost on me that it's a very unusual situation that I'm in, and I feel very lucky to do it. And yeah, there's been some really amazing things that have happened in the last few years. You know, Harry Styles being the first person to ever wear my designs was a huge honor and really helped me, you know, on the journey to where I am now. And I'm very grateful to all of those celebrities and customers as well who've worn my designs and, you know, supported me. The way that I approach it when I start working with a high-profile person is looking at how they dress and what they wear on a day-to-day basis and kind of working with that. I always want to push it and make it feel me, but I also think it needs to feel them. It should be a collaboration. So the way I normally start is, you know, I look at kind of the things that they wear normally and have done in the past, and then I ask them to look through my previous collections and see what speaks to them. And they're like, oh, I love this suit from spring summer 2020, and I'm like, okay, so maybe we use that as a starting block and then we go from there. It's always very collaborative, and I think that's the best way to do it. I never want someone to come in and be like, oh, you need to wear this, if it's not something that they would naturally go towards. But it is also good to push them a little bit sometimes as well. The best advice that I was ever given was from another fashion designer called Hussein Chalayan, and it was an internship I did when I was at university. And he said to me, if you're going to do something, if someone's already doing it, then it's not worth doing it. In reference in particular to, you know, starting a label, he basically was saying that you have to have a unique perspective and a different point of view to everyone else, because otherwise it's not going to stand out against the crowd. And that's something that's really stuck with me. The thing that I love most about working in fashion is kind of the variety. It's so broad actually, I'm never just doing one thing, and that's something that I really enjoy. I don't think I could just do like the same thing every day. Each season is different and there's different projects, so it could be, you know, we're shooting a campaign, we're designing the collection, working on production, doing this. There's a variety which keeps things really exciting. The thing that I find most stressful is trying to balance that variety. Sometimes, you know, there'll be loads of different projects happening at once, and trying to make sure I'm someone who, I want to do everything well that I do. So I can feel really frustrated if I don't feel like I'm doing a good job, and by taking on many different projects, it's sometimes difficult to find the balance and, you know, make sure that I'm delivering. So that's the bit that's a bit stressful. Royal Ascot is such a unique place. You know, how often do you get to put on, you know, a top hat and a tailcoat and a fascinator, and it's really an opportunity to be your best self. And at Ascot we have this this saying, which is like, find the Ascot you. And the Ascot you is really about embracing, you know, what Royal Ascot is, and having fun with it. You know, I always say to people, you know, this is an opportunity to get dressed up and enjoy yourself, so make the most of it. I think when I first started, I was kind of like so fixated on the dress codes and making sure that, you know, following it to the T and stuff. And actually, as time's gone on, I've realized that, yeah, the dress codes are there, but it's so easy to dress within them. There's so many options, and they are not restrictive, actually. It actually guides you, and it's actually helpful to have them, because it narrows it down a little bit, and you're like, okay, this works and this doesn't. So the thing that I've learned is not to be afraid of the dress code. My advice for having fun with your Royal Ascot look is to think outside the box. Don't think that you need to dress in a traditional Ascot way. Like, as long as you're within the dress codes, there are so many possibilities, and have fun with it. So every year at Ascot, there's always like a color or a trend that kind of comes out. For example, 2 years ago, there was like this periwinkle blue everywhere. We just kept seeing everyone wearing this color. And then last year, we just saw loads of polka dots. And this year, we were kind of thinking, okay, what do we think it's going to be? And I was looking through the runways of different designers and the collections of the milliners, and I just kept seeing this really rich, kind of like bright tomato color everywhere. So we've predicted it, and we've said that that's the color of the year for Royal Ascot this year. So I hope to see lots of bright tomato. The reason also that we kind of went with this name of bright tomato is, like, I love that a tomato can come in kind of any different shade, but it's that really rich, like orangey red that I think is really gorgeous, especially in the summer. So, you know, that you could be going for like a full, you know, bright tomato colored dress, or it could just be a little nod, like you could do a tie, maybe it's your accessories. There are many different ways to do it. One thing that we always see a lot of at Royal Ascot is pastels. There was a toss-up between kind of like a lavender colour and the bright tomato for colour of the year, and bright tomato just pipped it, but I do think we'll see a lot of lavender as well. It's, you know, it's one of those colours that maybe you would think of as a bit old-fashioned, but I've seen, you know, loads of really beautiful examples of how it can be used this season. I think Royal Ascot is an opportunity to embrace new fashions and, you know, push yourself and do something new and exciting. But I think there is also still a place for kind of the tradition and the heritage of it as well, especially when it comes to like the morning suits, the tailcoats, the top hats. I think it's beautiful that we still have this, you know, 300-year-old race course that are, you know, embracing those traditions still, but at the same time, welcoming newness. And I think that's actually the thing that I love when I'm at Royal Ascot. You have those two worlds colliding and creating something very unique. I think if you are someone who kind of sways towards the classic look a little bit, there are definitely ways that you can just add some freshness in. And I think that comes down to details, actually. You know, it could be, you know, a fun tie pin or a slightly funky shoe that kind of will go with your classic dress. There are kind of small things that you can do that kind of embrace the fun of Royal Ascot and some modernity, but still remain true to yourself if that is more classic. I love to see a flat at Royal Ascot. You know, it's a long day, so if you're wearing a really high heel, you know, you might pay for that by the end of the day. So definitely love to see some flats there. I think there are loads of nice options on the market. Actually, looking through the FRASERS website, I saw lots of great ones from the likes of Ganni, where they're less traditional than you would expect from a flat. You know, there's some funky buckles and studs, and going for one that is, you know, slightly more elevated in terms of the materials will help it still to feel, elegant and formal whilst protecting your feet from having to wear a high heel all day. My advice for someone who is attending Royal Ascot for the first time would be, don't get bogged down by the dress code. It's actually really easy. Don't think about what you can't wear, just think about what you can wear and enjoy it and have fun. And on the train on the way down there, you might feel a bit crazy wearing this big hat, but once you get through those gates and everyone's got a hat on, then all of those worries will be gone. So just make the most of it.